All right, so you might be wondering why I have chosen to call this week's episode Everything is Bananas. But in fact, I am quoting my beautiful guest, Kelly Surtees, who's one of the world's best living astrologers, I'm going to say. She's brilliant. She's been around for years. She and I are both from Australia. We met when she was so much younger than she is today. I feel like I was the same age, but she was very young at the time, and I was the same age I am now, I think. Kelly is just a teacher, a writer, just an astrological mover and shaker. So, Kelly, why did you say 5 minutes ago, everything's bananas? I mean, astrologically, why as well?
I mean, sometimes it's a mind meld. I don't know if I said it, you said it, but we were talking about Uranus changing signs and that happening just a couple of days after a full moon, which is in the same sign that Uranus is moving into. So it's all about Taurus. Yeah. Yeah.
So, in fact, I know why you said it now. Now I remember. Because I said, oh, my God, Kelly, sorry, I'm just trying to get everything organised because I was running a bit late and didn't get the right recording on and blah, blah, blah. I said, God, it's also mad at my machine. And Kelly said, everything is bananas. And I said, that's what we're going to call this week's episode.
Yes, you got it. That's right. That's exactly right. And there's so much. Yeah, there's a lot of planets changing signs in the first week of November. So it's a lot.
All right, so let's start by talking about that. I mean, basically, you know, if you've tuned in and you're wondering what's going on in the skies this week, Kelly, talk to us about what's going on. I'll just sit here and have my coffee.
Okay, great. Sure. So the first week of November, I mean, I'm really thinking about this as planets on the move. Mars will move into Sagittarius. That's on the 4th. Venus will move into Scorpio. That's on the 6th. And then the big news is the 7th or 8th, depending on where you are. Uranus, which has been in Gemini since July, is going to move back into Taurus. And Uranus is one of our big outer planets. It's definitely a mover and shaker. It's, you know, when we're saying everything's bananas, you know, Uranus is a planet about change, about some upheaval. Uranus points the pathway to new freedoms, but it lets us know that to get there, we have to be willing to shake things up in the present. And so Uranus changing signs is an important kind of shake up. And so Uranus coming back into Taurus November 7th or 8th, it's a clue that there's some unfinished business from earlier in 2025 that you're ready to return to, and that there are parts of your life that are just waiting for you to make more authentic choices in. And now's kind of more of the time, if you like. That's a little summary.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the reasons, again, that I said, yes, let's call it Everything is Bananas, because I've written a couple of emails this week, newsletters, about how I was having a conversation with two girlfriends, both of whom were in Australia. And one has her whole professional life going through the mill at the moment. The other is in a much better state, but still, she said, my life is just chaos. And I said, yes, you know, I keep waiting for everything to settle down and it's not settling down. I was like, we're all in this chaos. And it made me realize, I mean, obviously as an astrologer, my first thought is, well, what's the astrology here? And what I was thinking was, it's so much, I think, because in the first half of the year, we had all these planets changing signs, like Saturn and Neptune moving to Aries and Uranus moving into Gemini, and we've just had Pluto changing signs and actually Jupiter change signs. You know, I actually was saying it's sort of like the analogy I've been using, rightly or wrongly, it really only applies probably to Jupiter and Cancer, but extending the analogy to all the planets. It's like you kind of pack up your life and you move house. All these planets have changed signs, and you like get to your new place and you put all your boxes in the living room and your suitcases, and the delivery guy arrives and gives you more boxes. And then suddenly someone comes in and goes, no, you can't live here. You're going back to your old place.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Does that make sense to you as an analogy?
Yes, it's a great way of thinking about it. Yeah, you thought you were ready to dive into the next chapter, and it turned out that you were meant to just have like a dip your toes in. Like maybe you were meant to view the property, maybe do a couple of overnights, but you weren't necessarily meant to move all your stuff in just yet. And so that's that quality of upheaval for sure.
Yeah. And to talk about it, you know, for people who don't exactly know the astrology that's been going on, you know, we had Saturn and Neptune both moving into the sign of Aries after being in Pisces. So they're in Pisces, they moved into Aries, which is like the house move, and now they're back in Pisces. And now on top of that, we had Uranus, the planet of chaos and madness and bananas, that moved into Gemini after, 7 or so years in Taurus and has now moved back into Taurus. So that's sort of the astrology. So it's kind of a flip-flopping.
Yes.
It's hard for people to find their footing.
Yes.
I've got another girlfriend who's going through a really rough time who said, unfortunately, there's a bit of an issue with her husband going on at the moment, a health thing. And she was saying, I just need a month of normalcy to sort of settle down. And I think, and that's another sort of thing as well. It's like we just need things to settle down. But the thing is, it's not really going to end anytime soon, is it? We're actually still having it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that flip-flopping around is a great summary of 2025 as a whole year. It's like 2 steps forward into the new, and we have to take a step back to wrap things up from the past. And that piece of straddling what's to come, but needing to finish up what has been going on, that means we're all a little bit stretched. We're a little bit maybe overextended. And to your friend's point about I just need a month to kind of regular so I can ground myself, maybe the nervous system can catch up. I actually wonder if 2 things in this first week of November will help with that. One is a very short-term thing, and that's the full moon in Taurus, which is sort of this maybe 48-hour reprieve of, okay, let me just catch my breath today. Let me just be organized today, maybe make a plan for tomorrow. Uranus coming back into Taurus, I think, is a chance to get back in touch with something that's been familiar. Like you said, Uranus has been in Taurus for 7 years. When Uranus comes back to Gemini more permanently, which is late April of 2026, there will be a quicker pace to life. We know that Uranus and the sign of Gemini are very in love with movement and change and experiments and shaking things up. And so if the last 4 or 5 months while Uranus has been having its initial taster entry into Gemini, if that has felt like things are moving too quickly for you, there are some clues in what you can do over the next few months. You will want to think about, how do I get more nature into my life? How do I get more embodiment practices into my life? Because they will be your resources once Uranus comes back into Gemini in April. Because to your point, Yasmin, to your friend's question, I don't know that it's going to slow down anytime soon. And so each of us building those habits about how do we handle when things are going quicker than we might like. And does that prompt some larger reassessing about things we're involved in that maybe we don't want to be involved in anymore? And that's ultimately our freedom and our authenticity.
Yeah. And so tell me, Kelly, I know you do a lot of personal consultations, although you're booked up for the next 300 or 400 years, as far as I'm aware. So there's that. But if you're consulting people this week and what does it mean for me, that Taurus is moving back into, Uranus is moving back into Taurus?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in some ways, the most personal way to think about this is, where is the sign of Taurus in your personal birth chart? We all have Taurus somewhere. You may or may not have planets in Taurus, but Taurus will occupy one or another of the 12 houses in your chart. And so thinking about the topics of the house where you do have Taurus as an area of life that needs a little bit more of a reset or a little bit more of a refresh, there's something that's got a bit stagnant about that Taurus part of your chart in life. There's something that's maybe become a little boring or a little too familiar, or it's not exciting and interesting in it anymore. And so with Uranus coming back into Taurus, it's I wanted to shake that up. I wanted to change that. Because I think that Uranus is sort of working on each of our behalves to help us find more interesting or exciting or authentic or individual ways of being. So that's a way that we can all access Uranus coming back into Taurus if we know our own chart.
Quick reminder, I'm just hopping in to say if you are loving this chat and want to go deeper into what's coming up astrologically between now and the end of the year, I've created a free workshop that I'm going to take down quite soon, all about the astrology of the rest of 2025. You'll get instant access to it when you order and register your Moonology Diary 2026 at moonologydiary.com. So at this point, I asked Kelly, let's go through the houses, how it's affecting everyone by their rising sign. And Kelly, being the incredible teacher and astrologer that she is, waxed lyrical. But I know not everybody has the desire for all that depth. I hope you do. But if you want to hear the full length of what she said, I highly recommend listening to it. It's go to moonmessages.com/Kelly, moonmessages.com/Kelly, or have a look wherever you get your podcast. It's in there. But I also asked Kelly, let's do a really short version for people who are in a hurry. So Kelly, take it away. Aries rising, what could they expect?
Okay, so changes and freedom choices with money, cash flow, income, spending and saving habits.
Okay, Taurus rising people, I'm going to say your whole life.
Perfect.
The way people see you is up for change. Gemini rising.
So this is about spirituality, it's about rest and about healing.
Okay, Cancer or Moonchild rising, expect changes to do with your friends and social circles.
Perfect.
Leo rising.
This is change for authentic shifts where work, career and life direction are concerned.
Yes. And now, of course, I get the one I told you that I like. Virgo rising, 9th house. Expect changes, disruptions, liberation and awakening around travel, study, adventure, and even your life philosophies.
Perfect.
Libra rising, 8th house.
So changes to do with money from a managing taxes, loans, long-term investments perspective, and also some freedom from old worries or concerns.
Scorpio rising, expect the unexpected in your love life, and you're probably going to want a bit of variety while you're at it.
I love the voice, Yasmin.
Okay, now I've lost myself.
Sag rising. So that's Taurus 6th house. So we are wanting to shake up everyday routines for home and work to make them more varied and interesting.
Okay, Capricorn rising, it's to do with sex, fun, creativity, children. Just expect lots of excitement, potential for excitement, maybe some disruption, but anything to do with the stuff you do on your day off, but including sex.
Perfect.
Okay.
Aquarius.
Home and family.
So this is shaking up your home and living situation to refresh it to better reflect the current and emerging you, and changing and breaking old family relationship dynamics so that you can be more authentic.
And last but not least, I'm going to give it to you, Kelly, because you've done all the hard work on this podcast. So take us out.
Oh my God, that's so sweet. So Pisces rising, Taurus 3rd house. So you are getting those shakeups and shifts around communication and self-expression, around sibling relationships, and maybe reactivating any stagnant daily spiritual rituals as well.
And again, if you want to hear the long form version of this, and I assure you it's worth listening to, go to moonmessages.com/Kelly, or just have a look wherever you get your podcast. You'll see it's there as well. Yeah. Okay. So now let's just sort of conclude by bringing that full moon. There is one more thing I'm going to talk to you about actually, but let's bring this part of the proceedings to conclusion by saying, so now with that full moon coming in, you were talking about it's coming off the back of this and heading for that and all that. You said it's a beautiful full moon, and how it's going to affect all that.
Yeah, so the full moon in Taurus, this to me feels like an oasis of calm in, some otherwise, tumultuous times. The moon is full in Taurus, which is technically the sign of the moon's exaltation. So a really simple way to think about this is that it's a really good, nourishing, stabilizing place for the moon. The middle of Taurus, particularly because the full moon's technically at 13 degrees Taurus, is really associated with accumulation and with habits and rituals that allow you to build steadily over time. So there's just a glorious energy there. The full moon in Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Venus at this particular full moon is sitting pretty in one of her home signs in Libra. So there's this real Venusian energy, that focus on companionship or connection, friendship, togetherness, as well as enjoyment. Like, how can we literally take time to smell the roses or sit down to share a hot beverage or a homemade meal with friends? And in Taurus, the meal doesn't have to be lavish and 5-star. It can be a simple soup, a basic roast chicken, a chickpea curry, something that's just got that real cozy, nourishing quality to it. And then, as the moon moves out of being full, the next planet that it will encounter after being full is Jupiter in Cancer. And that is a very supportive, like abundant, nourishing, and I think healing aspect for the full moon to make as well. So I can't promise that the whole of the week or even the whole of November is going to be calm, because it's definitely not. But this 48-hour window around the full moon in Taurus is a chance to kind of catch our breath, get back into our bodies, enjoy some of those tactile or sensory creature comforts. And with that link to Jupiter, it feels as though we're able to really relish in or celebrate those connections with our loved ones, whether it's actual family or chosen family, your close friends that feel like family, that sense of I have belonging here. And when we really have that feeling of belonging, sometimes we feel we don't need much more. We don't have the ambitions or the need for stuff because we have this great feeling in our heart. And I think that's one of the gifts of this full moon, is to remind us, maybe even bring us to a little bit of gratitude about the things that are sweet or generative and supportive that already we have in our lives.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. And, coupled with the Uranus in Taurus energy, it's also, I guess it's a chance to wake up a little bit, to, liberate yourself if you need it, and, just really just think, where do I need this shake-up? Where do I need this?
Yeah, and I think, when I look at like the whole of November, there's one point that stands out that I think really helps with insight around where do I need this shake-up or this reset. And I'll just share it with your listeners now so they'll have it to think about. It's actually when we get to the new moon in Scorpio around the 20th of November. And the new moon will be exactly opposite Uranus. And I think it's really going to help bring a lot of insight, a lot of clarity, for all of those topics we were just talking about for everyone. If you're sort of hearing it, yeah, exactly. And you're like, I don't quite know what I want to do there. See what comes forward under that new moon, because I think you'll get like this bolt of insight at that point.
Amazing. So actually, there's two more things I wanted to ask you, please.
Sure.
Number one is any rash predictions you'd like to make about cryptocurrency with this Uranus back into Taurus situation. I think we've recently seen the biggest fall in the history of cryptocurrency. And for anyone who doesn't know, Uranus is, the planet of technology. Taurus is a very money-oriented kind of energy. So, we all talked about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and blockchain when Uranus moved into Taurus. It's definitely kept in the headlines. What do you reckon for these last few months of Uranus in Taurus?
Yeah, I guess this yeah.
She's not a hiding to nothing in some ways, because as one of my astrology mentors used to say, Uranus governs chaos theory, and it's very hard to predict. But let's have a...
Well, totally. And the Bitcoin crypto thing is not something that I have tracked a lot. But I do understand that it has been a little bit tied to Uranus in Taurus. And so with Uranus not being in Taurus for a while and those things kind of crashing or losing some value, I guess people might be speculating that there'll be a further increase. I'm just not sure. I think in terms of like stock markets and stuff, there has been this riding high theme, even though I know the crypto has been going down. And the day before Uranus goes into Taurus, Venus will change signs. She'll come into Scorpio. I think that's going to take the edge off some of the like overpriced, overvalued things going on in the stock market. So I think, with the disclaimer that I haven't tracked a lot of the crypto highs and lows, I think it's probably expecting that Uranus and Taurus might be helpful for it. But I mean, that one's a little bit further out of my wheelhouse because I haven't spent a lot of time. What are you thinking for that, Yasmin? It sounds like you have kept an eye on it.
I mean, I've slightly kept an eye on it, and I've bought a bit of crypto along over the years just because of the whole Uranus in Taurus thing. I mean, I'm expecting probably more chaos on the crypto side. And I would say that we've said Uranus stays in Taurus until April, you said, is that right?
Yeah, end of April, I think. Yeah.
And I would say, if there are any further big crashes between, say, now and January, I will probably go onto my little app and buy a bit more.
Right.
I think, okay, there's still a bit more volatility to come before Uranus leaves Taurus.
Got it.
Is it going to be all good or all bad? Obviously, probably not. And I think an interesting thing as well is, what happens once Uranus leaves Taurus and moves into Gemini? I mean, the obvious thing is AI. And, maybe the smart money is going to come out of crypto and go into AI. Maybe we should just all be buying shares in, whatever.
I mean, that's what's happening on the markets right now is the money is flooding into the chip makers and the companies that are running businesses now that have the potential to rapidly accelerate what they're doing by using AI. But it's very frothy. It's very, it reminds me of the tech bubble in the late 1990s where money flooded into the market thinking, all of these tech companies were going to be great. And some of them did, and many of them kind of deflated. So I think, to your point, I think your sentence where you're like continued volatility, I think that's the best thing. Because the other piece is that Saturn-Neptune, which, there is a sense of this illusory piece, and that's hanging around for a bit longer.
Yes.
Bit of smokes and mirrors.
I guess it comes down to that thing, do not risk more than you can afford to lose.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm thinking, if I had to sum it up, I asked you without having really even thought about it myself particularly. I've just sort of had it in the back of my mind, okay, so Uranus is going to make one last foray back into Taurus. It's going to mean more ups and downs for crypto. I might buy a little bit more if it hits rock bottom, or
fair,
because I think it will probably rebound if it has enough time. And then I just think, I wonder if we're just going to stop thinking about it so much and move into just thinking about AI and chips and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, obviously the last time we had Uranus in Taurus and Gemini, there was no such thing as cryptocurrency or indeed AI. So it's not like we can even particularly look to the history and say, well, 89 years ago or 83 years ago,
you're right. We didn't have, there were barely computer prototypes back then. But, with Uranus in Taurus, the last time around, we saw a lot of development around food manufacturing and food processing. So like when I think about Uranus coming back into Taurus, I really think, what are these last fast-paced developments around food processing, food technologies, food manufacturer? And what I'm food standards, even like World War II. Yeah, World War II and the way food was produced to provide food that was shelf life to go to the soldiers fighting wars, that the wars were tragic, and those innovations continued to influence what has become fast food today. And so, the backlash that's come out against some of those types of foods. So I'm really interested in those pieces with Uranus coming back into Taurus as well. So many things.
Maybe air fryers are the big discovery of Uranus in Taurus.
Maybe.
Every person in the world now has an air fryer, or practically. Even I've got one.
Yeah, I have to confess I do too.
And also the other thing is just on the food thing, we've all rejected a lot of that stuff, haven't we? Like spray on cheese and
Absolutely. And, all the questions about what's safe and what's not safe in food manufacturing and production, and what people thought is safe and then, they realize isn't, and, the swings and roundabouts of things going in and out of fad with that,
and
I think.
About food, actually, of course, Taurus food.
Yeah.
Focused on blockchain and Bitcoin.
which is totally fair. There's something about like blockchain, which seems very Gemini, just the name of it, like the chains of things seems very Gemini to me. You know, on the currency money piece, I think this has a lot to do with Uranus-Pluto aspects. And I'm thinking back to the 60s when we had Uranus and Pluto together in Virgo, and that was really the advent of the modern credit card system. And so to the extent that things like crypto type products might change the way people are spending with credit cards, because we do have a Uranus-Pluto trine aspect coming up in 2026. So whether there's some innovations in the finance space from that level, that's what I've had in the back of my mind.
Yes, I mean, it's very space age, isn't it? All everything we're talking about is very space age.
But a credit card was very space age when it first came out as well. The idea that you could go and get goods or services without actually handing over cash, that was a wild idea when it first came forward. I mean,
really chips in your palm, you know, we're all mad at.
Well, think about now, like you can have your credit card on your phone. You know, even my parents were visiting with us recently, and I was not made to feel. I felt like I'm such a slow adopter with technology, and because my husband has had, you know, his card on his phone, and both my parents had it, and I'm like, you don't even need a physical thing anymore. Like it's not the same as the chip inside you, but that phone and what it's doing, that's outstanding technology relative to how quickly that's all developed.
Yes, it's funny because I'm the opposite. I'm an early adopter.
Yes, yeah, I love it. Well, yes, I'm just slow. I'm stuck in the stars from 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's all good, darling. You're just an old soul. So we've talked about all the astrology of the rest of this year, but I believe you are about to offer people something for all of next year as well. Tell us about that.
Yes. So we are about to start my Plan Your Year Ahead 2026 course, which is a 4-part training where I'm going to take you through 2 timing techniques to help you anchor your chart into the astrology of 2026. So you'll learn about perfections, which sounds funny, but is really simple. And we'll also dive into transits and timing cycles for 2026. So if you already have a handle on your birth chart and you would like some help figuring out what transits and what topics and planets and houses in your chart are really activated in the year ahead, we'd love to see you in class. Plan Your Year Ahead 2026.
And so how's it going to work? Is it at live sessions or? And then
yeah, absolutely. Yes. There'll be 4 live sessions, Mondays in November, starting November 10th. Everything's recorded. So if you can't make the live session, or maybe you're listening to this after, you can absolutely grab all the material. Each student gets access to the course platform online. In addition to the 4 live classes, we also have 4 live Q&A sessions, and they're at various times to accommodate students all over the world. There are weekly readings and a private discussion forum where you can have your questions answered as well. So there's lots of support. I'll be teaching. I'll be supported by 2 of my wonderful teaching assistants. And we teach this course every November, and it is an absolute blast. So we've talked a little bit about what's happening at the end of 2025. But yeah, if you're more interested in what's coming up next year, love to see you in class.
And just to kind of let people know, it sounds like it's for people who already know their way around their chart pretty well.
Yeah, you would want to already be comfortable with understanding like aspects in your birth chart. You would want to know about your houses and your planets already. We usually say, because it's timing in astrology, so we are getting into that predictive astrology space, it's best for intermediate students. If you're not sure and you want to find out, you can just send a query through my website and we can get you pointed in the best direction for your level.
Great. And where do people find it?
Oh, of course. Yeah. My website, kellysastrology.com. That's where you'll find all the details. There's a big outline of the course. So kellysastrology.com. And if you need help with anything, you can reach out to the help team on help@kellysastrology.com.
And we'll put a link in the show notes as well. Can I come? I want to do the course.
You absolutely can. Oh my gosh. Yes. I will get you set up with that, Yazzie, for sure.
All right, my dear. Well, look, thank you so much. Everybody, this has been Kelly from kellysastrology.com, which doesn't begin to describe the wealth of information this woman has. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed hearing that, Kelly. Really, really just fascinating to go through it like that with you. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Hop over to Kelly's course if you want to know what's coming up for you in astrology next year. And Kelly, thanks again.
My pleasure, Yasmin. It's always a treat. Lovely to see you. And I look forward to catching up again soon.